Welcome to TLC for the Soul podcast, where soul meets spirit. You have entered into sacred space. I'm your host, Tammy Lynn Chambers, and I'm here to help you shine. Now let's get going on this podcast journey. When will you love me? When will you see me? When will you be with me again? Oh, I wanted to see you, did not want to leave you. When will you love me again? Did not want to go, no. This was not a one-woman show. When will I see you again? Oh, 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 when will I see you again? Good morning, friends. Happy 8/8 Lionsgate. We've made it through a very important portal. We're going to be talking about that this morning. Talking about our Despacho. Have you released yours yet? I will share all the deets of what I did with mine. We'll bring in our shaman again. And whatever else the guides want to talk about on this 8/8 Lionsgate. Let me find a seat and get comfortable. If you're a new listener, welcome. Welcome home to our podcast family. See how we roll here at TLC for the Soul. If you're a returning listener, welcome yet again. We just keep showing up for these episodes, just like we just keep showing up every day in our lives. All right, I'll try to get situated here till the sun gets too hot. So as always on the podcast, you choose how you want to listen. You can join me around the sacred fire circle as I wrap all of us in love light and light love, inviting in the guides, wisdom, keepers, totems, who would like to join us here on today's episode. You can choose to take your listening experience an octave higher and invite in your own soul friends, departed loved ones, dragons, angels, whoever you want to work with, who might also help you with additional messages. Is everything we talk about here when we're in Sacred Circle, our messages for you on your journey, on your path, spiritual teachings, healing. Right now we have power animals wanting to come in and walk the circle and do healing as we are doing our coffee talk this morning. Coffee talk. So you can invite in your own power animal. Now these will be working with chakra cleansing, helping to remove anything that's stuck on you. There's a lot of lower energies being released right now in the collective, and as empaths, light warriors, healers. The 144, we just seem to automatically soak up some of those things. So very strong boundaries are being called for in this now. Inviting in the Pleiadians, the spirit of the shaman and the curandero. Any other guides here? Nope. I do have my own, from our list of spirit guides. We haven't worked with our list of spirit guides in a while. But I do have, let me actually just pull her up and share her with you in case you don't have your own shamanic guide. For those of you that have been with me for a while, this is my list of spirit guides that I got in the spirit guide auctions that a soul sister that I used to be in groups with had these. And I'm like, they used to be so fun, but thankfully the Spirit pulled me out of that because I was getting so many guides. I need to use them more frequently. But okay, she's calling. She wants to be used if I can find her. Okay, I don't need any mosquito friends here today. Thank you. Marion. There's so many I have to... Oh, here she is. Okay. So her name is Elena. She's a shamanic elf. And I just read their descriptions. So these are all energetically bound to me, but a lot of them like to be used more widely. So I share them. Some of them do not want to be shared. They're just mine personally to work with. But others do like to be shared with a wider audience, and you are welcome to call them in and use them if you so choose. But she is a shamanic elf, and her description is she looks like a beautiful Native American woman who has wisdom but a gentle nature. She does carry a great amount of wisdom and will help you in your journey. She has a raven with her, but also a bluebird. She is, sorry, there's mosquitoes attacking me. She is someone who balances the light and dark and will show you how to do this as well. She has a deep connection to earth, but also to the spirit world. She is deeply magical and will be an incredible guide. So that is Elena. So if you do not have a shamanic guide, because all this month on the podcast, we are working with shamanic energy, shamanic spirits, my own work as a shamanic practitioner. This month's overall arching theme is peace offering. Peace offering as one word, not one word, but a thing, and peace and offering. Where can you give back more? Where can you be more at peace in your everyday life? And we're still in the overarching theme until, when is it? November to October? September. Until September of magic. Hold on, what is it? Signs and portents, the Holy Made Manifest. And where to focus this topic? Okay, they want me to talk about the Despacho first. So I did, as we talked about last Sunday, and I've been pretty inactive on the podcast and everything since then. I actually tried to record something the other day and Spirit shut it down. I recorded a whole drum journey and I found it only recorded the very 7 seconds or whatever. And I was like, okay, I guess you're trying to tell me to lay low for a while. So, last Sunday, we talked about the Despacho offering and the one that I was doing to the spirit of the curandero for a boon, for a blessing. It's not just a blessing for me. I think it obviously will have a ripple effect. But anyway, regardless, so I created my Despacho. I just got some parchment paper and I put in my things. I won't really share those with you since they're personal to this particular offering. But I invited you, the guides that are here invited you, if you wanted to make your own Despacho. And you can go back, I won't go through the whole thing again, but you can go back and listen to last Sunday's episode if you want instructions on how to create a despacho for yourself, or, you know, whatever, you can look it up, or maybe you've made your own before and you don't need any instructions. But anyway, we're invited this month to make a despacho, which is an offering. So I put my little offering together yesterday, and it felt like yesterday was the day that I had to do it before the 8/8. So I was like, well, show me where you want me to release this. I knew it was water. I knew it was going to be a water offering. So, of course, where did I end up? Back by the portal tree at the river, at the Divine Masculine River. So if you listened to the, I don't know, a couple podcasts ago, we did a shamanic journey through a portal tree. And so I ended up at that portal tree again. And Spirit's like, this is where you throw it in. Throw this despacho into the water, into the river. And I did. And, you know, I had blown a lot of blessings and a lot of prayers into it as I was making it. And there was a very good current, and so it started to go. And I can say, and I think last Sunday I said, okay, you're supposed to release the attachment to the outcome of what your blessing is, when it's going to happen, what it's going to be, who it's going to involve, and all that. And so I would say was a little helicopter parent of the despacho little pouch for a few minutes. I followed it down the river quite a bit to see where it was going. And I guess I was a little worried. So these are metaphors, right? I was a little worried, like, because people were kayaking and people were swimming. And I was like, what if somebody picks it up? What if a swimmer's like, oh, what is this? Because it doesn't look just like trash. I mean, it's tied with, I tied it with like hemp string and everything. So it looks like a little parcel floating. And it didn't submerge. It was floating. And I was like, what if there was people fishing? And I was like, what if somebody actually catches it and their fisher, you know, in their fish hook or whatever? And finally, I was reminded, like, okay, you're supposed to let this go and just trust that it's going to go where it needs to go, regardless of how it gets there. And so I finally, like, stepped away from it, and I kind of saw it, like, going around the bend and just traveling. It was so cute on its merry way to wherever. My original intent was that it'd make it to the ocean, but I don't know if it will before. It's got quite a ways to go to get to the ocean from here. I think the ocean is like several hours away, but who knows? On water, maybe we carried faster. So you know, it's never too late to do anything, but if you are called, then you're invited to do your own despacho as a peace offering, as an act of trust and faith. We also talked about that last Sunday. So Lion's Gate, I do want to share something because I think it's important for some of you listening. And I heard it, like I said, there's very few readers that I listen to on YouTube now. But whenever Dee at Consciousness Evolution Journey posts a card reading, I definitely listen to it. Not all of them, but this one was about starseeds and light workers and the Lion's Gate portal. And her reading was very powerful. She was coming off of a cold and talking about ascension symptoms, and pretty much everybody I know has got some either mild or very strong ascension symptoms coming into this Lion's Gate. But the other thing that she shared is that this is the end of a 4-year cycle of really, I guess, being held back, for lack of a better word. Being held back, that even though you knew you were in alignment for a lot of your manifestations, this also is for anybody who is, you know, seeking a divine counterpart relationship, anybody who's seeking more abundance, and that this whole time, you know, this 4-year cycle, so this would have been since 2017, Lionsgate 2017, which was right after, in the States, it was right after a very powerful total solar eclipse. We've got another one coming up here, I think, at the end of the year. But since then, for this past 4-year cycle, you know, some of us have been purposely, by spirit, by source, held back from all of our things that are next in our life. So next on our journey, things that were in our soul contract, that it was divine, you know, they always say divine timing, that we were purposely held back so that we could gain power, gain strength, in all ways, like physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, to grow. And I would have to say that the last 4 years have been the most intense and the most profound in terms of the amount of spiritual growth and just growth in general that I have gone through. And I have definitely felt held back. You know, it's starting to slowly pick up now, but I've definitely feel held back in a variety of ways in terms of different things that I'm wanting to manifest in my journey. And what she did say is that this portal has been open. It closes on the 12th, which, if you've watched the August energy update, I showed you my calendar that I just kind of intuitively draw at the beginning of the month. And we had a whole brand new like golden door drawn on August the 12th. And I don't remember exactly what it said there, something, I don't know, but like a new portal opens up, a new door opens for us on August the 12th, which is when this Lionsgate portal closes. And a new journey starts, basically, is what they're saying. So for any of you that have kind of felt that same way in your journey, she was saying, like, Spirit was telling her that it's either going to be an instantaneous, like she snapped her fingers, like a light just turning on, like from 1 minute you're going to go to like nothing to everything, going from nothing to having everything, or just seeing everything totally turn around on your journey. Or for some people, it will take a little bit longer, closer towards the end of the year, which when I hear that, I'm always like, I'm always in the camp. It seems like it takes a little bit longer for everything to start to turn around. So some of you, it's instantaneous, and some of you, it's just all of the things, and maybe because you're got so many different things you're trying to work on and manifest that they couldn't all immediately just drop in your lap. Like, they will take a little bit of time to show up in the physical. But that the Source has definitely shifted the paradigm for a lot of us who are in that waiting room, and who've definitely been doing a lot of soul work, a lot, oh my God, I keep saying a lot of work with the collective, that those blessings are starting to pay off. I feel like we've been building up a spiritual bank. So anytime you give, anytime you serve, without expecting anything in return, then you're building up your spiritual bank account, so to speak. You're building up your karma account in terms of blessings that are then kind of given back to you, because everything has to come into balance. You can't just give without ever getting anything back in return. That's just the law of karma. That's just how it works. But sometimes it takes a lot longer than you would expect, because sometimes there's a lot of balancing out that needs to happen. So I know for me personally, like I, did a lot of receiving in the years prior to 2017. And so between 2017 and now, it was like my time to just give back without, I was always divinely provided for. But in terms of like my own personal wealth and all of that, like it definitely saw a downturn after 2017. And now I'm just trying to build all that back up again. But you can't just build it up without giving first. So I had 2017, even 2015 to now, spent a lot of time giving back and receiving in various ways that were supportive of me, like, the roof over my head and all that. But not in other ways that I was expecting up until now. So, be on the lookout for things to take a better turn. Astrological alignments also in place to support that, with Jupiter's placement in the astrology right now, and Lionsgate obviously is just going to continue to see an increase in abundance. All right, anything else you want me to say there? I always check in sometimes, especially when I have a lot going on here. Oops, I gotta find this. Hold on. All right, we are at 19 minutes. So we're kind of in a void space of just laying low and receiving these energies between now and the 12th. So you know what happens when we go into a void space? It gets really quiet. You kind of wonder if anything's going on. This new moon, like, it's doubly amplified. So someone posted yesterday that starting last night and through today, there was a series of coronal mass ejections. So that's all of our Lionsgate energy coming in through Solaris, but also the new moon energies and alignments are amplifying that. And I haven't even listened to the astrology. I've listened to a little bit of astrology, but I like to listen to Wonder Girl, and I will be doing that later today. But the title of her video for this new moon was From a Slave to a King. And I was like, okay, that totally feels like what I just talked about with these energies of being held back and now suddenly starting to reap what you have sowed. But in a good way, right? So reap what you had sowed is not always a bad thing. So I think we always hear like, well, you're going to reap what you sow, like it's a bad thing. And it can be if you're sowing negative karma. But if you're sowing positive karma, then you're going to get positive returns. So let's see. I want to read what's happening in this void space. So I did bring Moxie and Roses again. And I have started the third book, finally started. The other day I started with channeling the first chapter in of a wooden box with a cross on its lid. And and I did publish, for those of you that are interested, this is probably a good one to read between now and August the 12th. It's a very short read if you're interested. I did publish the ebook Brighty Isle, Spirits of Brighty Isle, which is the fourth book in the Bringers of the Light series. So there's a link in my profile to my Smashwords page. You can download that as an EPUB file as long as you have an EPUB reader for free. All my ebooks are free, or any place, Apple Books, Google Books, Barnes and Nobles. I think my biggest downloads right now come through Apple Books, but that one's out there. It's a very short read. I think it's a short story, so I think it's only like 50-something pages long. But Brighty Isle is really good for being in the void space and just for being able to sit back and realize that Spirit's working behind the scenes on your behalf. So this is Moxie and Roses, though it's really windy. And last Sunday, when I checked the podcast recording after we did it, and there was a lot of wind, I didn't hear anything coming from through this Rode microphone. So I'm really enjoying this Rode wireless that I have on. And I want to thank you. Like, that's upgrades like that are things, and I've been watching too a lot of people that I follow, a lot of the healers that I follow on YouTube, and I've seen their videos really coming through with like upgraded things, like upgraded surroundings, upgraded tools, upgraded knowledge. So I can really see where our collective is leveling up, and that's really exciting. Okay, what do they want me to read? But this isn't about shaman. Why do you want me to read this? Sorry, I'm just reading this because I just want to see. Why is this the energy? Okay, so they're asking me to trust, but I'm just supposed to read this, but it has nothing to do with shaman. So it does in a way have to do, let me just read it and then we'll see what messages are coming through, if the metaphors are coming through. But this is in a sense about us. Okay, I know where you're going with this. Okay, this is in a sense about a shaman, but it's not Edgar. So in this collection, Thunder Rose collection, we have Pamela Cartwright, who owns Thunder Rose Ranch, and her daughter Amber. And Amber is like 18, 19 years old, and she is upgrading and ascending, but very, very slowly. But she's always been kind of fond of Edgar. And Edgar sees something in Amber that she doesn't even see in herself. And he sees her as his apprentice. And this is coming up with the spirit of the curandero. And it's come up in the cards for me. And I will say, I think in the next couple of weeks, we will finally be showing more of the card decks to you guys. Spirit has me waiting till the first quarter moon to do that, or right around the 15th. But I do have another deck coming out in September called Bubble Bubble. It's a Sacred Alchemy deck. We've already gotten the first proof of that. It looks amazing. It's 54 cards, and it's got like an autumn kind of Halloween kind of Samhain theme to it. but there is a card in there called something about, I don't know what exactly the name of the card. I think it's Wind or whatever. But there's a couple of cards in there about apprenticeship so someone with a greater knowledge, like a master teacher, taking on an apprentice. And there is a card like that in that deck. And Amber in this book is like I said, slowly awakening to what it means to be a shamanic practitioner. And Edgar has allowed her to drum for him, which is a very sacred honor to drum for him as he leads a shamanic journey. And she was like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but she got in the circle, got the drum, and right away she inherently kind of knew what to do and how to drum. And she has actually, at the ire, I think, of Edgar, I think it was in The Stallion Returns, she actually got into and went through his medicine pouch, which is a very, I'm getting such chills. Why? It's a very sacred thing. No one's supposed to see what's in your medicine pouch. So if you are interested in shamanic work, that is another thing, in addition to the Despacho, is creating a medicine bag. Finding a bag that you really love, and sometimes there's multiple ones, especially, whoever you are, and putting sacred objects in it and carrying that bag with you as a source of your own power. So you don't ever really show anyone what's in your medicine bag. And Edgar had left his pouch, which has very powerful tools. He has an eagle talon and some other things which are, master level tools. An apprentice wouldn't technically be given by a teacher an eagle talon to work with because that's very strong medicine. And he leaves the bedroom where his medicine bag is to go take care of something, and Amber is just kind of like drawn to the medicine pouch and opens the whole, dumps the whole thing and starts going through what's there. And it brought a lot of anger from Edgar that someone would even be touching his things. But then deep down, he kind of realized, wow, something's going on with her that she would even be interested in this. And so again, he sees the apprentice in her. So I just feel like a lot of you that are listening are starting to open up to that side of yourself. The teachings, what it means, what does shamanism mean to you? It's different for everyone, and there's so many different types. I mean, you hear people talk about galactic shaman and Celtic shamanism and all that. So it's just kind of like the different energies that you work with, but it's still very earth-based. But they've brought me to a strange part in this book that I'm going to read, and it's Amber, but it's Amber like the other side of Amber, not the shamanic practitioner. So let me where do you want me to start? Okay. So Diego and Moxie and Amber were kind of just hanging out, basically, in the big house, at the ranch house. And Moxie, should I start sooner than that? Okay, let me start here. Back at the house, Pamela sat on her bed, preparing to talk to Amber, but she just wasn't quite sure what she needed to say yet. She knew all the customary arguments might have little effect on the headstrong girl, and so a new approach was needed. She decided to sleep on it and grab her daughter first thing in the morning before anything else could happen. Pamela was more exhausted than she realized and lay back down on the down coverlet, as sleep overtook her. Down in the den area, Moxie and Diego sat on the leather sofa in front of the fire as Amber made hot cocoa in the kitchen. It was one of the few things she could prepare on her own, and she thought she did a pretty good job of it, filling the thick clay mugs with organic cacao and warm almond milk and topping it with a handful of mini marshmallows. She put everything on a tray and stopped to check her reflection in the guest bathroom mirror. There was still a chance, she thought to herself, as she reached into her pocket to make sure the Magnum was still there. She didn't know her mother had seen it, and she felt excited again to think her dream might still come true tonight. Moxie was still fuzzy, trying to piece together what had happened in her tent. Once she had fainted, she had entered into a deep trance state unbeknownst to her. There in that state, the Divine Mother had come to her again and laid out the entire plan before her. Everything that Moxie would be required to do for her part in the revealing. She had no conscious recollection of any of this now, as the plan had been ingrained in her subconscious and would only be revealed when the time to execute on it was near. Diego was trying to be as supportive as possible, but that didn't come as easy as he thought. He had no idea what to say or do with something like this, and attributed that to his lack of upbringing by any persistent female figure. The compassion and delicate touch that a mother's love could bring to a child were foreign to him. He had been brought up by his grandfather and uncles, and the words brought up were being used loosely. His mother had dropped him off at the fire station in New Mexico and was never to be seen again when he was a year old. His paternal grandfather, Emilio, had learned of the incident through a friend who read about it in the paper. He made the decision to take Diego in, as that's what kin do. But beyond that, he wasn't much of a role model, as his lust for money and women took up much of his time and efforts. Baby Diego was often left to play with neighbors or at the church daycare, so Emilio could go play the horses during the day. At night, he was left alone in his room when Emilio went out on a date with his latest fling. Diego learned about women from Emilio's collection of penthouse magazines and by the church nuns who took care of him, both unrealistic examples of a modern-day woman. "I don't really remember anything," Moxie said, looking into the fire. "Just that I was able to get the lid off that box, and then that's it. The next thing I remember was Pam calling out to me and then you picking me up," she said, resting her head on his shoulder now. "And that box is nowhere to be found again. It's so strange," she said, her voice trailing off. "You might remember more after a good night's sleep," he said, brushing her hair back with his hand. He could feel her breath on his cheek, and her face was so close to his. He started to move into her, and their lips almost touched. As Amber bounced into the room with the cocoa, "What are y'all doing?" she said, knowing full well what was happening on that couch. She was no fool, and her timing had been perfect. "Moxie, you won't win," she thought to herself as she set down the tray in front of them. "Moxie, you've been through so much tonight. Why don't you use my bedroom?" she said, hoping that would be enough of a catalyst to get Moxie moving so she could have Diego all to herself. "I can keep Diego company while you rest." Moxie was really exhausted, and in more ways than just this incident. She had been trying for a while now to break herself free from Diamond and the Pink Lady. She wanted to be a respectable girl that men didn't drool over as she flashed her breasts in front of their face. She had been secretly taking classes during the day to get her degree in animal care and wanted to be a veterinary assistant for horses. So, of course, she had jumped at the opportunity to come to the ranch and spend time with them. But the toll of working almost nonstop on school and at the club was wearing her out. She had almost decided on giving up on her dream until she had gone into the stables. But now the weird happenings of the day clouded her conscience, and she didn't know what was happening. "Yes, I think I'll turn in," she said, rising from the sofa. She took her mug of cocoa and looked at Amber, too tired to figure out what might happen next between her and Diego. "My room is the third one to the right at the top of the stairs," Amber said excitedly. "Good night, Moxie," she said, reaching out to give her a small peck on the cheek. "Good night, you guys," Moxie said, as Diego rose to try to help her along. But she was already moving out of the room, and he realized he was all alone now with Amber. At the realization that she was now alone with Diego, Amber had no idea what she was supposed to do next. Her mother had been no help whatsoever in the sex department, and Amber learned about sex, as most young girls did, from the silly sex ed class in school and from all her friends who had been shacking up with boys since they were early in their teens. How Amber had escaped a sexual relationship yet was beyond her. She thought she did a great job of showing guys that she was interested, and all her friends had told her what guys liked, and she had tried to implement some of these ideas without her mother finding out. But she must be doing something wrong, she thought. But not tonight. She was going to reveal herself to Diego, And as her friends had told her, he wouldn't be able to say no to her. What she didn't realize is that Diego looked at mostly naked women almost every night and had become somewhat numb to the sight. So he worked at the strip club. He had to be, or else he would never make it out of the club's bathroom to do his work. He couldn't spend all night masturbating if he was going to keep his job. So he had learned a technique that a friend had taught him on how to calm and center his mind in the midst of any type of chaos. And he had implemented this centering technique wherever women were concerned. That was every woman except for Moxie. He just couldn't seem to center himself around her. Her presence made him crazy, even though on the outside he played it off pretty well. Diego could hear Amber talking to him, but his mind had been lost on Moxie. He wasn't prepared for what happened next. "And I know that deep down you really like me, Diego," she said, standing up from where she sat next to him. "And I'm going to prove to you just how much I really like you too," she said, as his mind came back into the room. In what seemed like a fast-motion video, she had peeled off her top and bra and shimmied out of her sweatpants and underwear. She was completely naked, standing in front of him and holding the magnum in one hand, praying he would say something, or at least take her into his arms and lay her down in front of the fireplace. Well, he was fully awake now. Maybe this is our Kundalini rising we talked about for August. He was fully awake now and couldn't help but admire what was clearly one of the finest bodies he had seen in a while. However, that was beside the point. Breathing in deeply and focusing his mind on being centered, he jumped up off the sofa, pulling the blanket that laid there up and around Amber. "Girl, are you crazy?" he said. "Your mom will have me fired in a minute if she catches us like this. What are you doing?" Oh, this comes out on one of my cards. "I just want you to like me. Maybe even love me. Heck, you don't even have to love me like that. We could just make love, you know." She stood there, her bottom lip trembling now. He softened a little and almost felt sorry for her parading herself like this. Although he really liked what he saw, she was no Moxie, and he realized he was falling hard for that girl upstairs. "I gotta go, Amber. I'm gonna sleep in the gatehouse tonight. Please get dressed and go get some rest," he said, heading quickly out of the room as Amber burst into tears. "But Diego, you're supposed to make love to me," she screamed after him as the back screen door closed behind him. Okay. So this is part of the void space. This is the this is the other part of our journey where we're just kind of supposed to have fun. So that's kind of, to me, that's just kind of a fun little reading. Again, you know, these books are all channeled. It's so interesting where this stuff comes from. But this is like Amber, you know, she's not an apprentice right now. She's just kind of a girl, trying to get in touch with her emotions, trying to understand where she's at in her life, but just opening up to her own sexuality. Maybe her own Kundalini is rising, because the diamondback rattlesnake is our spirit totem for this month. And when I did the August energy update, if you haven't heard that yet, it's not too late, you can go back and listen to that. But Kundalini rising was another theme for this month, in addition to all the shamanic work. And I was like, where does that play in? If you remember me saying, like, I don't know where that's supposed to play in here. And maybe it's just, you know, I did say we've activated a lot of Kundalini on this podcast. And so maybe Spirit is bringing me to a little bit more of some of the erotica stuff in some of these books, especially the Thunder Rose collection. It's very heavy. Not very heavy, I shouldn't say that, but there are various instances of erotica in this set of books. Just part of the whole human experience. So what else is happening there that stood out? The box. So the box has the wooden box with a cross on its lid shows up just unexpectedly whenever it's needed most, and there's very strong, powerful energies inside the box. Oh, I just found a feather. Hello. So cute. That was a dove feather, so like peace. but very strong energies when it's needed most, and causes a very big awakening within Moxie, who is a powerful, like opening up to her light warrior, light worker abilities. So I think for this week, like, there's just not a whole lot going on. It's just reveling and enjoying in and assimilating and integrating all of the energies coming through. Here's a dove right here on the ground. Oh, it's not even flying away. It's maybe like 10 feet in front of me. It's so cute. They just kind of like waddle along. Hey, it goes so fast. So doves are showing up. It was a gray and white feather that I just saw. I don't always pick up all the feathers. Sometimes we're not meant to just like pick up everything that is presented to us. It's just the sheer act of seeing it is the medicine that you need. Like, I don't need the dove feather, although I do have some in my collection. But I think part of this next week too is kind of being in the world but not of it. Opening up to magic. I've done the Despacho ceremony like I was asked to, and so we're moving on next week to working with the Diamondback Rattlesnake Essence, and also bringing in our experiential for this month, which is Indian Summer at Fire Lake. It's already feeling so hot out here. Indian Summer at Fire Lake. I don't know what that's going to look like yet. Those energies are going to present themselves to me probably later in the week. And we'll see how that experiential presents itself. So I think that's all I have to share with you all. I want to thank you all. Some of you have showed up for this podcast and all 80-something episodes, and I want to just thank all of you that show up and comment and subscribe to the channel and listen. And honestly, I don't know how many subscribers we have because, I mean, I can see on YouTube how many, but this podcast is all over the place. So if you're coming from other places like iHeartRadio and Audible and all that, and all the different podcast providers, then I thank you so much for being here, joining our family. We are going to be doing more stuff with all my card decks because I do design and create oracle card decks, and Bubble will be, I think, like my 7th deck, and we'll be premiering all of those later this month too. I've had them out there for a while, but they're getting a facelift. We've changed printers. I've changed printers, and all these decks have upgraded. They now come with boxes. Rather than being shrink wrapped, I've designed boxes for all of those, and I think it's really, really cool. So without further ado, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Thank you for joining me here, and we will see you all again soon on the next episode. Take care.
This episode has been brought to you by the Thunder Rose Ranch and Forest, a sacred place where the beings of light surrounding its etheric location are here to teach love to all humanity. We want to thank you so much for joining us. Take care.